time to go in the Bible to show you this, then we won't have any time to really study. So when I mention someone, if you do like I did when I first started, mention the word Omri, you could go in and look up the word Omri and see who he was and all of that, how he come down through the beginning of the Bible. So, okay. So Omri captured 10 of the tribes, and they became known as the Samaritans. And then the 2 tribes, Judah and Benjamin, became known as the Jews, which was the tribe of Judah. So here Hezekiah comes down through David, through the tribe of Judah. And Hezekiah is one of the kings of Judah. I want to make it very plain. And we also have in there a king of Israel. Now, in this particular chapter, we're going to be also talking about other kings to start with. So Hezekiah, who was the king of Judah, and I don't know if I gave you guys 2 Kings. Did I give you 2 Kings 16 to write in your notes?
No, ma'am.
Okay, 2 Kings
16, 20, and 21.
Oh, you did? And 16 and 21. Also, chapter 21. I don't know if I gave you that. I just looked back.
Yeah, you did.
On the side. Mm-hmm. And so here Hezekiah, this king of Judah. Hezekiah reigned 29 years. And like I said, if I stop to go into the Bible and show you all this, it takes up too much time. But I'm going to tell you, and if you know something different, or if you say, wait a minute, hey, we're here. We're all here at Bible Scholars. Okay, so he was the son of Ahaz. And as we remember, coming down from David to Solomon to Rehoboam, each king coming down, some were good and some were bad and some were evil. But Hezekiah was a very good, faithful king. His father Ahaz was an evil king. He did things against Israel, against Judah. And he didn't do like he was supposed to do. And he ends up having a son named Hezekiah, who did great in the kingdom. Now, Hezekiah had a wife. And they don't often talk about the wives unless they're somebody that's meaningful, I should say, in the Bible. I'll put this stuff here. While I'm talking. If I have to read it, I'll put it back down. Okay, what happened to me? Okay. So, here Hezekiah, king of Judah, his father Ahaz, as I said, was an evil king. Hezekiah was a very good king, but we'll see, even being good, we make mistakes. We try our best to bring out the word the way that God gives it to us, and sometimes somebody has to add to it, or you have to add to us. And so in this, with Hezekiah, his wife her name was Hephzibah. H-E-P-H. The H is pronounced as an F. H-E-P-H, Z-E-B-A-H. Bah. So she was Hephzibah. And that was his wife. And that's all we know about her. But we know he had a son named Manasseh, which was Manasseh. As soon as I say Manasseh, of course you're going to think about Joseph. Son, Ephraim and Manasseh. Well, he would be referred to in the Bible as Manasseh number 2, okay? It's Hezekiah's son, Manasseh, in 2 Kings 21. And so Hezekiah, as I said, I believe, he reigned 29 years, and he became king at the age of 25.
Right.
And so now, here we are. Judah is under siege by Assyria. Now, we know, let's go back. This is beautiful when we go back. We just take time. God, please bring it. Omri captured the 10 tribes of Israel, took them to the hill of Samaria. While they were up on that hill, they built a fort around the hill. And they said that no one could get to them. God is starting to bring this to me now, so I don't have it written down. But anyway, I'm going to tell you as he gives it, as I think remember it. You remember something else, say it. Okay, so we're up on a hill. The hill is called Samaria. Now, no one could get to them. But you know they had water coming in underneath. We got to have water coming from somewhere. And the water was coming in underneath the hill that they would be able to use. And that's when the Assyrians, they decided that they were going in through the waterways, and they stopped the water from coming in, and that's how the Assyrians went in and captured Samaria. And Assyria, A-S-S-Y, Assyria took over Samaritans, and sisters and brothers also took over Judah, the tribe of Judah. And so they became known as the leader. So now that's who Hezekiah was under. He was under Assyria. But then God begins to do a separation, as we'll see. Okay, so now right here, Assyria was known as a world power. But they were the enemies of Israel, of course, because they went in and captured it. But you know God. God will send people to get his people's attention. And this is when God sent the Assyrians in to take over Judah to get their attention, a way of punishing Israel for not doing, and you'll see this in those scriptures I gave you, for not doing what they were told to do. So the Assyrians was told to do, and you know what, we could put that with right now, 2 Chronicles. And we turn around and say, God's people, not the people of the world, were told to humble themselves and pray and seek his face. So many of them are seeking a bigger mansion, a bigger plane, a bigger church. And what we have here in Pittsburgh, the great big cathedral, a glass place. No, that's not what God's all about. And so, but therefore, so now Assyria was a world power, but an enemy of Israel. But God still used Assyria, like he's going to use Nebuchadnezzar, like he's going to use some other ones that he used to get Israel's attention and our attention in our day. Now, Nineveh was the capital of Assyria. You got that? Nineveh was the capital of Assyria. And soon as I saw that, as I was reading, I said, where do we go with Nineveh, saints? That's why I said we'll be getting off and we'll be getting back on. Where do we go? Now, we talk about Hezekiah and the tribe of Judah and all of that, but all of this comes under that. Nineveh was the capital of Assyria, and Nineveh was where Jonah, well, we think Jonah would be mixed up with Hezekiah, but Jonah was told to go to Nineveh and tell those people that God said, get your life straight. Mm-hmm. And we know, getting off a little, like I said, Jonah, rather than go tell the Ninevites what God said, so he'd rather drown. Mm-hmm. What can we do, Jonah, to stop this storm? And he says, just throw me overboard. Think about it. You mean I want to be thrown overboard into the sea rather than go tell the Ninevites that God said, get your life straight? Because Jonah said, look, if I go and tell them that you're such a good God, you're going to forgive them and they're going to think I was lying. Because if I call you up and say, God said, get your life in order, and nothing happens to you, you're going to say, oh, she was lying. Well, that's what Jonah was afraid of. Instead of thinking about doing what God wanted versus what he wanted. And so, therefore, like I said, now we know who the capital of Assyria was Nineveh, where he had sent Jonah. Now, here's the other part. Babylon and Nineveh was under the rule of Assyria. Babylon, we know, came down from who? Nimrod, where Nineveh came from. Babylon came down from babbling as they tried to go up and climb up and see where God is up there, Mm-hmm. But he confused their languages so they didn't even know what each other was doing. And so we see that Babylon and Nineveh were both ruled by Assyria. Now, Assyria came in, like I said, to Judah, too. So God's trying to get the attention, Judah's attention, so he used both of them. Now, here we have, getting back to Hezekiah, the king of Judah, being under Assyria at that moment. He turns around, he's religious, he's very faithful. What did Hezekiah do? We're going to get a little bit ahead, and then we'll come back probably later to add some more in between there. But right now we want to go get some more of Hezekiah here. Hezekiah went into the temple and started cleaning out the pagans, started cleaning out everything that wasn't of God. And I remember saying to the pastor up here in the country when I was up there, he asked me to assist him, and I said, we come in the door on Communion Sunday, and all we can smell is fish frying, cakes and cookies that you're selling before we even come in the door. People stopping to buy to come up the steps to have church, and we're setting up to having communion. All I can smell is fish. I said to him, God said that you have made his temple a den of thieves. And he started throwing, Jesus said, start throwing the people out of the church. I said, this is what's going on. And as you see, we're not there. This is the second church God told me to tell him something. But anyway, so lo and behold, here Hezekiah is, religious, faithful. He went into the temple, and you'll see in there as you read that he began to bring the Proverbs into the temple. He began to bring the old Levitical hymns. He started bringing the Levitical hymns into the temple. Some of this is what I'm remembering, and some is what I was starting to read. But anyway, so he wanted it cleaned out of the pagans. So he started cleaning out the pagans and trying to bring in what was right. So of course you know there's going to be a battle. And as you remember, old King Sennacherib is very, very upset about this. See, because he wants to take over Judah. And so, but here Hezekiah is got one thing on his mind: to clean out the temple, to bring what is right in there, and that's what we that come on this line feel the same way. Sometimes God will give us something to bring to somebody or to bring to others. Sometimes he'll give others something to bring to us. And all we do, if it match up against the word, no matter what somebody says, it's God's word. And as long as it matches up with the word. So he wanted to get rid of the pagans, and that's in 2 Chronicles 31, if I gave you that chapter. 2 Chronicles 31. And so he began to encourage the Israelites. Come on back to church. Come on back to the temple. We say church, temple. Come on back to the temple. And this when he started to try to do everything the way it was supposed to be. But now we have King Sennacherib. He's now the king of Assyria. And so King Sennacherib, he's going to come in there and he's going to take over Judah. See how the layers go down as we talk about them. We can remember each one as it comes in line. Each one, because a lot of times you'll hear preachers preach on Sennacherib when he invaded Judah. But here's what's beautiful. Hezekiah refused to pay King Sennacherib any tribute. What are they asking for? They're asking for tribute. They're asking for pay this, pay that. If you want to come here, if you want to go, pay. So Hezekiah refused to pay King Sennacherib the tribute. And so he sees Jerusalem. So Hezekiah said, wait a minute. Wait a minute, before you take over Jerusalem, he said, I can't get to you over here, but I can get to Jerusalem. Hezekiah said, okay, I will give you 300 talents of silver, and I will give you, now listen to this, now as soon as I say this, all of you all are going to, ears are going to perk up and say, hey, I know where that comes from. 30 pieces of gold. Mm-hmm. If you leave Jerusalem alone, I decided I'd rather pay the tribute than to let you take over Jerusalem. You got it? Mm-hmm. And so 30 pieces of gold. What do we know? We know about Jesus, and we know about the other man that sold for 30 pieces, Joseph.
Mm-hmm.
Joseph start with a J, Jesus start with a J, and now we have Judah. And so here we go, and that's how I can remember stuff I should remember initial. But Hezekiah said, okay, I'll pay that. And then he went on, and we're going to get on to the part about Isaiah going to Hezekiah, but we don't want to do that right now. But you know what happened? King Sennacherib was one of the most powerful rulers because he was king of Assyria. And Assyria was like a world power nation. But what does God do? God steps in. That's why we don't have to worry about. And that's that message you were talking about, Sister Deborah, that your bishop on. That message that talked about God ruling. And so we see here God stepping in at the right time. And so here we go. Isaiah went to Hezekiah. You know, Isaiah went to Hezekiah many times because he was a prophet at that time. And you know what, guys? Also, Micah was also one of the prophets at that time, during Isaiah's time. So when you read about Micah, you'll be reading about the times that he went to Judah. Okay. So then here he told him, he said, don't worry about a thing. It's all in God's hands. Now, a King Sennacherib, world power, going to come in there, going to take over. And so, and then you had to pay him. And lo and behold, God sent, and you'll love to read about this, I know, God sent an angel that killed 185,000 Assyrians. Who did it? God used an angel to go and kill 185,000 Assyrians. And I didn't look that up to see the scripture, because some of these I didn't look up. Some of these I'm just remembering from in my mind. But we can either look them up later or come back with them next time. But anyway, it's in there. That's what he did to Sennacherib. Okay? So we see that.
That's chapter 1935.
Ooh, what book? What book?
2 Kings, chapter 19, verse 35.
Okay, Saints. You got that one? 2 Kings 19:35. I'm going to put that down here where I got my little notes. Some of my notes, just a few. Did you say 2 Kings?
2 Kings, yes, ma'am.
2 Kings. Okay. 19.
Yes.
35.
Yes.
Ooh, I love it. See what I mean? That's why it takes a village to raise. And it takes a village to be able to bring the word, because everybody can't remember everything. That's beautiful, yes. And so now, later on, we're going to go into Isaiah 38, where we talk about Hezekiah's illness. Oh, thank you for that scripture. And we're going to go into 2 Kings 20, talking about Hezekiah's healing. We're going to go into 2 Chronicles and talk about all that Hezekiah did that was good before he died. And then 2 Chronicles 31. Then 2 Kings 20, where Hezekiah showed Babylon all the treasures. Now, I want to elaborate on that just a little bit more about Hezekiah. You know, you go in and you show everything that you had, because Hezekiah had been so faithful, and God began to bless him, and he had all the gold and everything in the temple, and Ahaz, he didn't get rid of the gold, he brought it in. And then Hezekiah, these men came in, and this is what God brought me to start this Hezekiah thing. These men that they call envoys, E-N-V-O-Y-S, these envoys, which were representatives from Babylon, came into Judah, started talking to Hezekiah, and asked Hezekiah, what all did he have? And Hezekiah showed him all. The gold, the silver, everything that he had in the kingdom. He opened it up to him. He trusted these men. And then you will see, saints, what God has given us, and God has told us to do with what he gave us, and what he tells us to release and not release. When he tells us he may send us to one group of people and preach one sermon, and send me to another group and preach a whole different sermon on something else. because that was for that particular group of people. Well, when he let Hezekiah, because of his faithfulness, because of him bringing all the Levites, the priests back to the kingdom, and bringing the Israelites back to the temple, and starting to get the temple in order like God wanted it. And now he's going to show the enemy. Who's the enemy? The enemy, Babylon. Who was over Babylon at that time? Nebuchadnezzar. So he sent his envoys, his people in, his representatives in. Hey, go find out what all they got over there. And so Hezekiah came back to, and we're going to get into that towards the end. Hezekiah came back. Not Hezekiah, come on, Isaiah. Isaiah came back to, after coming back to Hezekiah, but adding 15 years that we're going to talk about later, he came back and he said to Hezekiah, what did you show those men? And this is where God told me to start bringing Hezekiah. He said, I showed them all that we had in our nation. And God said, and because of that, he said, I am going to destroy the temple, and I'm going to have that Nebuchadnezzar capture the Jews, the tribe of Judah. And who is that true Judah? Benjamin. And who is that? Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. Daniel, the little girl that spoke about 21 or 22 words that told the man with the leprosy.
Mm-hmm.
What's his name?
The prophet. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, told him, told his wife, said, there's a prophet down in Israel that can heal, in Samaria, that can heal your husband. Oh, on the tip of my tongue, I think it starts with the N.
Nathan?
Nathan was the prophet, David's prophet. This was something like, remember the man had leprosy and didn't want to be dipped in the old dirt in Jordan River?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For some reason I can't, it's not time. Nahum. Okay. So he said, here, lo and behold, that's when, talking about Nahum dipping, But anyway, so all of that we're going to be bringing up about how by showing Babylon all that he had.
What's the name, Sarah?
Naaman.
Thank you.
Who had to dip in the 7 times in the muddy Jordan? His name was Naaman.
Naaman, thank you. In the muddy Jordan, that's right, Naaman, thank you. See, that's why it takes everybody to help. One person don't have it all. So Naaman, down in that muddy Jordan River, Naaman said, we got good, clean rivers. Why would I want to dip into your dirty Jordan River? And then what does his servant say? Hey, why don't you do what the man of God said and see if you get healed? Yes. And so therefore, what I'm saying, and so what happened, getting back up to Hezekiah, telling all the secrets, showing everything in the temple, everything that's going on in the nation, to these men that then come in from Babylon, sent by Nebuchadnezzar. Then God said, and Nebuchadnezzar is going to capture Judah and tear down the temple. And the temple was teared down because we have Nehemiah and Ezra when they were going to build it up. So we don't want to get off course. Okay, so here, lo and behold. That's what God said told Isaiah, go tell Hezekiah. And what happened? Hezekiah said, listen to this. In a way, selfish in a way. Please tell it, don't do it in my time. He can take away the temple, all the gold and the people too. Just don't do it.
In his time.
When I read that, I said, God, now look at that. I'm thinking about what's going to happen to the people now, and he's talking about, please just hold off. And God listened to him and held off until after Hezekiah passed away, before he let them be captured. After God, when Hezekiah turned his face to the wall and asked for more time. He didn't ask for 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
He asked for more time. And God told Isaiah, Isaiah was walking through the courtyard. God said, turn around. Go back and tell Hezekiah that I see his tears. Okay, saints, we can start a whole preaching on that. God sees our tears, but we don't have that kind of time. But he said, tell him I've seen his tears and I heard his prayer request. And I'm going to add 15 years to his life. But little did we know when he adds years to our life that we better be careful. Because we don't know in those 15 years what could we do that would be wrong in the sight of God. And so that's the introduction to what we will be talking about Hezekiah next week. I can't say we're going to clear it up, but I will say that we'll have more to add, and we'll get into the scripture, some of the scriptures I gave you. So did anyone want to add anything? And I thank you guys, Sister Wavell and Sister Sarah, for adding to it. Anything anyone want to think about that they want to add to it, going back to David? David's lineage. Hezekiah, why Hezekiah is mentioned, I believe Hezekiah is mentioned in the book of Matthew under David's lineage. I'm almost positive. I'm not sure right now because I didn't look it up. But anyway, yes, and so we said, and then going to Ahaz, coming down through David, but an evil king, who produces a son, who is a Hezekiah, an evil king, a good king, who produces a son, Manasseh, number 2. The Manasseh, number 1, belongs to Joseph's son, and go on, and then Manasseh becomes king, and he didn't rule for long. But, okay. Now, was there anything anyone wished to add to this lesson? And was there anything that you didn't understand or any questions? You may ask them now.
You're right. He's in the languages. Languages that you said that updated, going through the genealogy of Jesus, the Messiah.
Yes. And he is in Matthew. Is that Matthew?
Matthew is 1. That's the one.
Because Luke is about Mary's lineage. Oh God! But saints, I'm telling you, God is the only one. Remember, I told you I taught years and years ago, and God showed me years and years ago, and He's still saying it to me today, and I'm still telling people all He wants us to do. I said to the pastor's wife, I said, because she and I would talk about all the scriptures all the time. Sometimes I go to her house and we just sit at the table and go through the Bible. Sometimes on the telephone, when the kids go to bed to sleep, I'd hurry up and we get on that phone and talk about the Word. And she would say to me, I said, but Sister Johnson, that's how you all remember this Word. I barely remember, and I've been reading since I was 9. And she said, Sister Carrington, that's how she talked. She said, God does not want you to be lifted up. He wants you to program it in, and He will bring it out when you need it. And then the computers come out. And when the computers come out, that's when I put the two together. When we used to have the first computers that came out that I taught were paper tape computers. Then they were magnetic tape computers that I taught. And here, lo and behold, what it is when you put it in, at that time, if you didn't push the button save, then everything you type would be gone. So we learned to push save. The new computers, once you type it, they get the automatic save. Okay, so that's what God was showing me when the computers came out, and I started teaching at Westinghouse where Sister Lorraine was. Here, lo and behold, he said, now see, all I want you to do is program it in. And Sister Lorraine said to me, oh, Lois Jean, I'll never remember what you remember. I said, listen to me. I said those words to Sister Johnson. And she told me just keep pouring it in. And it's not going to come out till God needs it. Look what happened tonight. I start looking up stuff, and then I just had to put the book aside. My eyes was blurring, and the ink pen wasn't right. I grabbed another one, and then God said, just open your mouth. And all of a sudden, it starts coming back like a movie, saints. You start saying layer by layer, piece by piece. Go ahead. I'm going to stop so you all can say something.
But this has nothing to do with this. But I wanted to ask you, do you have a chronological Bible? You've heard of that kind of